Okie dokie. We are not a democracy. How many times must I say it over and over and over again? When you hear your government leaders say, our democracy is in jeopardy, and they say it on both sides. Republicans are saying it even though they control everything. They still claim, our democracy is in jeopardy. Those Democrats are trying to destroy our freedoms. And, the Democrats also. Our democracy is in jeopardy. So, democracy, it means majority rule. It does not mean equality. It's only a hope that the majority would govern in a way that all would be equal, but there's no guarantee that a democracy will establish laws that are equal for all. That is the danger and the problem with democracy. Please understand this. This isn't some hyperbole trying to fool you into voting against whichever party you choose to belong to, which that in and of itself as a dichotomous party government indicates that we are not out to establish equality for everybody. Because both parties, whoever is ruling, do not establish equality. We still have poor. We still have discrimination. And so, please understand, we are not a democracy. And what our government is instead trying to do is establish a democracy. Do you understand that? They're trying to change our government into a democracy. They're trying to make it so that the majority rules. And what are the Democrats doing right now? Now that they've lost, which was expected because they don't rule, Republicans rule. So yes, they were going to get Kavanaugh into the Supreme Court and all sorts of other things that they're doing. All the laws they're passing in the Congress. We knew all this because they rule. And all this talk about, oh, when I was a kid, I was poor. And I'm referring to Hatch. They all are putting on a show. Just like when they're running for office. We all know they're lying. They never keep the promises that they make. And yet finally we get Trump, who actually is keeping his promises, but we didn't think he was serious because nobody in their right mind would actually promise those things. He wasn't supposed to win. The votes were changed, and that is the danger, because Democrats are saying we need to rise up and vote. We need to express our anger in the vote. And we've seen it. Everybody's coming up with polls. Polls are useless information. They're small samplings. If you don't know what a small sampling is, Google it. It's a fallacy. The news promotes polls, both on the right and the left, and it's very frustrating. Because when they bring out a poll, they're not talking about the news. And then you hear reporters say, we talked with some millennials, and millennials aren't voting. Well, how many millennials did you talk to? Did you talk to all the millennials? No, they didn't. They talked to a few. Video from yesterday I saw, a guy met some millennials sitting on a cement wall outside of their university, and the reporter went up to them, said, how many of you are voting? And of course everybody's looking at him like, who are you? Why am I? And nobody raised their hand, and so the reporter assumed that they weren't going to vote. And yeah, history has shown through statistical evidence that the number of people registered to vote don't vote of the certain age groups. Those are reliable data. Polls are not reliable data. So that's how people promote their biased agenda, whether they're on the right or the left. They manipulate poll numbers to push whatever story they're wanting to promote. And so Democrats lost, so Democrats are now pushing, we need to vote. And they're trying to get millennials out to vote. You know, vote Democrat. And though the press can't say vote Democrat, you know, that's what the left-wing press is doing, is saying, oh, Trump did this, oh, Trump did that, oh, millennials, you need to vote. And so that's what's going to happen when you vote, and it'll be on a voting machine because nobody was listening to me. Where's my... Yeah. This just came in the mail today. Yep, this is my voting ballot, paper ballot. I do not do the computer. I do not do the voting booths. I knew way back in, what was it, 2004 or 2008? Can't remember when, because I've always done paper ballot. And it was probably 2008 when they made the change, because it was supposed to be for that election. And I remember a couple of politicians in Utah, well, it must have been 2004 or 6, maybe it was a midterm that they rolled it out. Yeah, people involved in the technology of computers and programs, they know they can be hacked. They knew, and they warned everybody. But our government doesn't listen. And why? Why doesn't a government want to listen about the most important feature of a government? The vote. Simple. What happened with Putin's election this last time around? The votes were altered. He did it for his own vote to make sure he won. And so not only were there people voting multiple times in multiple districts, but he altered the vote so that he won. And guess what happened in 2016 with our vote? If Putin can do it to his, and since we know it is established that Putin has hacked not only our computers, our power station computers, he also got our voting computers, voting booth computers. And with all these other distractions, nobody is remembering this. Nobody is remembering that Putin altered the vote. He didn't just put in ads on Facebook saying crooked Hillary, so vote for Trump. No, he actively altered votes. And our government refuses to do anything about it, to stop it. There's no sanctions, there's no punishment. Mueller is indicting Russians, but we'll never bring them to justice. They're in Russia. They did their job. They're loyal patriots to Russia. But that hasn't stopped the hacks. And just this, let's see, this is Wednesday, so yeah, it was, I think, Monday. They were talking about how China is putting in a type of tracking device inside all of their computer equipment that they're selling to us in America. They're able to hack our devices, our computers. China. The whole world is against us. We are under siege. We are under attack, direct attack. And it's not a military attack. It's a cyber attack. They're controlling information. And that's what you do in a war. That's the first stage. Control the information. Put out false information, put out confusing information, so that the real information cannot get to the people. If you guys still want a democracy, you've got it. We already have it. But remember, your vote doesn't count, which means we're not a legitimate democracy because you didn't vote for the majority. The majority had their vote altered to be the majority. And it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat. You know, Trump is the one who got paid off. So he is now of the Republican Party, even though he used to be Democrat. See, he doesn't care about what party he belongs to here in the United States. He's loyal to Russia because Russia paid him off to be loyal to them. That's how it works. Highest bidder. You know, loyal to whoever pays the most money. And the United States stopped giving loans to Trump after so many bankruptcies. So Russia said, hey, we'll give you a loan through Deutsche Bank. And there's also the Alpha Bank, apparently, that's involved also through an indirect line. So understand, we are not a democracy. So whoever rules, it's their law. It is not an equal law. So when you hear the news talk about our democracy, how we need to exercise our democracy and vote. Yes, we have votes, and the majority vote puts a person into that position, but they don't do their party. We weren't supposed to have a party. It's not in the Constitution. The person who we choose to put in office is supposed to be completely independent of party loyalty, party money, so that individual citizens could run for government. They don't have to be rich. They don't have to belong to a party who gets rich. You could have a homeless person run for president, but they changed it when they added parties with Thomas Jefferson. And we have never followed our constitutional government. We are not a constitutional republic as the Constitution declares it to be according to the supreme law that is the Constitution. And as a result, states are fighting against the government for supremacy over their own state. See, I'm from Utah, for example, if you haven't figured that out by now. Utah is its own kingdom. They don't like the government. They don't want anything to do with the Constitution, even though the Mormon Church who runs the government touts the Constitution as divinely inspired, so we want religious rights over all other rights. See, again, majority, not equality. We need a constitutional republic in order for all to be equal. Because under Obama, you Republicans were complaining up a storm. You know, he's suppressing us here, he's suppressing us there, he's suppressing us everywhere. You don't like it when you're in the minority. So just because you're in the majority now doesn't mean that in some future time you will then switch back to the minority. You know, maybe Trump will fix the elections from here on out so that you guys will remain the majority forever. You know, you can hold on to that dream if you like. But what are the consequences of domineering over other people? You see it with Trump. You see it with the Senate. The victims of abuse, the people that were redressing grievances, just like you were under Obama, were said to be mobs. You don't want that label on you guys under Obama. And so what does Trump do? He calls them the mob. And that's to suppress them, to discriminate against them. That's democracy. So if you really want democracy, and you want to make life a gamble as to who's going to be in power, fine. But I really wish you'd go somewhere else in the world to practice it. Because this is my land. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land. I hope you guys know that song. You know, unfortunately, we took this land by forcing out the Native Americans. We didn't treat them equal. And then we built this land on the backs of slaves. We didn't treat them equal. We kept women in the homes barefoot and pregnant. Didn't treat them equal. We can't have our system that we currently have in order to be equal. We must get rid of the economy. We must get rid of the government. We need a new Declaration of Independence. And the Declaration of Independence, yes, it was in opposition to King George. And King George said, hey, this is a declaration of war. We're going to go kick their butts. And the Revolutionary War began. He wanted to suppress the independent thinking. He did not want a new government on his land as he saw it. And that's what we're going to end up facing. If you're Republican, yes, Democrats will not accept being locked in cages just because they don't like being abused. You don't like being abused. You don't like going to jail. You want a rich lawyer to bail you out and get you off. If the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. The rich cannot have unequal justice. That is not equality. But people who are rich say to the poor, you're not working hard enough. You got to work harder so that you can be like me. And they won't tell you that they got their money from their dad. They didn't earn anything. And then eventually, somewhere back in time, their original father who got rich got it through slavery and through criminal enterprises, through force. So, we are not a democracy. Vote a paper ballot. But even then, all we have are Democrat and Republican as options. We don't have an independent person who will seek equality for everyone on both sides. So that's where we're at. Our vote will be altered. My vote is never counted because I never vote for Republican or Democrat. I always vote for an independent person. My vote has never counted. I have never been represented. That's the reality. So millennials, if you guys are actually watching this, know that your vote will not count on your very first voting experience. Welcome to the Civil War.